With the Australian Open done and dusted for another year, we can now go through a little bit of the rankings because there have been some major changes after this Australian Open. Of course, it's worth a lot of points for both the men and the women, and a lot of players that did well last year that didn't do well this year have also suffered. Also, the race of the finals. We can actually talk about that as well for the first time this year. Let's have a look. So starting off with the winners of the Australian Open, starting on the women's side, of course, Madison Keys defeating Sabalenka in the final 6-3, 2-6, 7-5 to lift her first Grand Slam trophy, and she got a nice boost in the rankings because of it. And on the men's side, Jannik Sinner goes back-to-back, beating Zverev in the final 6-3, 7-6, 6-3 to lift his third Grand Slam trophy, and being world number one, he just adds to his title, or at least extends his lead over the rest of the pack. Let's start with the players outside the top 10 that are at career-high rankings, because there's a lot of names that actually did very well at the Australian Open and reached career-high rankings. Starting with the women's side, we've got Vekic. She went up to a career-high number 17 in the world, putting Saber into the top 20 for the first time at number 20. Danilovic, of course, had a great run at the Australian Open, going up to number 41 in the world, career high for her. And then, of course, the lucky loser, Lise, goes 37 spots into that number 91 spot, which is a career high for her. And because of that run as a lucky loser to the fourth round, she actually got a wild card this week to an event in Linz. So she's reaping the benefits of that. On the men's side of things, Arthur Fils, he jumped into the top 20 at number 19 in the world, going up 2 spots higher than last week. Mickelson, he goes up 6 spots to number 36 in the world. One of the young guys that did so well this week and got the boost in the rankings. Tien, another guy coming through the qualifiers, beat Medvedev, got to the fourth round. He goes up to number 8 in the world. Career high ranking for him, 41 spots higher than last week. And then Fonseca, he gets into the top 100 for the first time. Number 99 in the world, 13 spots higher than last week. So the kids that did really well this week at the Australian Open on the men's side, getting a boost in the rankings. All right, let's start on the women's side of things for the top 10, because there were a couple of changes down the bottom half of the top 10, but no change up the top, with Sabalenka staying at 1 and Swiatek at number 2. But the points between those two are so close that over the next month, if Swiatek does well and Sabalenka doesn't, there could be a bit of a change. So world number 1 ranking is well and truly on the line. Gauff stays at 3 with Paolini at 4, but we did have a change in the middle with Zheng going down 3 spots to number 8, with Rybakina going up 2 spots, despite not playing super well this week at the Australian Open, making the 4th round. Goes up 2 spots to number 5. Pegula staying in there in the middle there at number 6. And then Madison Keys going up 7 spots back into the top 10, reaching her career high ranking at number 7 in the world. So she's equaled that. And possibilities of her going up higher, of course, with the rest of the season on the line. Zheng at 8. Navarro goes down to number 9, 1 spot lower than last week. And Badosa, she jumps into the top 10 after making the semi-finals, up 2 spots to number 10 in the world, which kicks out Kasatkina and Krejcikova from the top 10 completely. So no major change up the top yet, but that could change over the next couple of months. But down the bottom half of the top 10, there was a lot of shuffling going around. All right, let's look at the race, the finals. Now that we've had a couple of weeks on tour, Keys, she's at number 1. She's only lost 1 match for the season and won 2 titles, so no surprise there. Sabalenka comes in at number 2. Swiatek at 3 with Gauff at 4. Badosa comes in at 5. With Navarro at 6, Schneider at 7, Polina Kudermetova comes in number 8, of course had a really good week before the Australian Open, Pegula at 9, and Andreeva at number 10. So it's looking pretty good, that top 10 for the race of the finals. Of course, a lot of those players have either been there in the last 12 months, or last year they were in the WTA Finals, or they've been there before. So maybe not too many unfamiliar names there, except for maybe Kudermetova, and of course Schneider, who's had a really good couple of months, is also featured. But very interesting to see how this shapes up over the next few months. Going over to the men's side of things now, and no change at the top, just like the ladies, with Sinner, of course, winning the title, didn't lose any points. He stays at 1 with Zverev at number 2, Alcaraz at 3, and Fritz stays at 4. We did have a change in the middle with Medvedev dropping down 2 spots to number 7 after failing to defend that final that he made from last year, allowing Ruud to go up to number 5 and Djokovic go up to number 6. Demonor, he stays at number 8, but we do have a change on the very bottom with Tommy Paul going up 2 spots, number 9, a career high for him, and finally getting into the top 10. Such an underrated player, Tommy Paul. Made the quarterfinals, almost beat Zverev as well. If you remember, those first 2 sets were so close. He had chances in both. He's getting his top 10 ranking debut this week, pushing Rublev down to number 9, and Dimitrov falls out the top 10 completely. So no major changes, with the big one being, of course, Tommy Paul making the top 10 for the first time. But over the next couple of months, especially with Djokovic being injured, it'll be interesting to see where he falls if he doesn't play due to injury once we get sort of to that clay court season in a couple of months. Race of the finals now, and like the ladies, it is starting to take some shape with Sinner coming up at number 1, Zverev at 2, Djokovic at 3, and Shelton at 4. Paul, so underrated, he's at number 5, with Monfils at number 6. Of course, won a title before the Australian Open as well, getting into the 4th round, so he gained a lot of points. Demonor comes in at 7, Sonigo at 8, Lehechka at 9, and Alcaraz, He is at the top 10 for this week after making the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. So, a very similar, very familiar top 10. You know, there's a few new names, obviously, but for the most part, the guys that we expect to be in this position in about 11 months' time are starting to form that top 10 for the rest of the finals. So there it is. They are the rankings. No major changes except for those kind of top 10 debuts or those return to the top 10. The Americans are doing so well right now. They've got 3 players on the women's side in the top 10 and 2 on the men's side. They are starting to take over again, just like it's back in the 1990s or the 1980s when American tennis was at its peak. But let me know in the comments below. How do you see the rankings? How do you like the rankings? Are you a little bit confused with something? Let me know in the comments below. I know a lot of people are asking, what about Djokovic? He might not play for a little bit because of the injury. What's going to happen to his ranking? Well, to be honest, he probably won't change that much because he doesn't have that many points to defend. If you remember this time last year, he didn't play in February and he also only played Indian Wells. So if he doesn't play due to injury, he should stay where he is. But of course, Jannik Sinner still up the top, and then Sabalenka Swiatek. That number 1 ranking is on the line over the next couple of months, especially the next month of February, if Sabalenka doesn't play as much and Swiatek does well like she always does in that time slot. But there it is. They're the rankings for the week with the Australian Open behind us.